Welcome to The Explainer. Management control. It's one of those phrases that kind of makes you shudder, right? But what if I told you it's not about being a tyrant? What if it's actually about steering? Yeah, like steering a ship, a super powerful, totally positive tool to get your team where they need to go.
So let me ask you something. Does your team, or maybe your project, ever feel like it's just drifting? Like a ship without a map? You know you're supposed to be heading somewhere important, but the path to get there is, well, it's pretty foggy, isn't it?
Well, that feeling, that's exactly where management control comes into play. And I know what you're thinking. The word control immediately brings up images of micromanagement, right? Rigid rules, someone breathing down your neck. But that's a total misconception. Real management control is all about steering. It's the art of guiding your whole organization to its goals, making sure you get there efficiently and, without losing your mind along the way.
So the big shift here is moving from restriction to direction. Look, it's not about dropping an anchor and holding everyone in place. No way. It's about handing everyone a compass. It's about giving them a clear path and a shared sense of direction that actually empowers the whole team to get better.
And this whole steering thing, it actually follows a really simple but super powerful three-step cycle. You can think of it as your go-to navigational loop. It's just 1. Set your standards, 2. Measure how you're doing, and 3. Take action. That's it. So let's dive into each one.
Okay, first things first, you've got to chart your course. It's pretty obvious, right? You can't steer a ship if you don't know where you're going. In the world of management, your destination is defined by your performance standards.
Think of these standards as the actual coordinates you plug into your GPS or your old-school map. They're the benchmarks that define what success even looks like for this journey. And here's the thing, you don't just make them up. They're shaped by what your team can actually do and what's happening in the market all around you.
And here's the cool part, the little secret. You probably already have these navigational charts. Seriously, they're hiding in plain sight in the documents you use every single day. We're talking about your strategic plans, your budgets, your job descriptions, even those Gantt charts for your projects. Those are your benchmarks.
All right, so you've got your course all mapped out. You set sail. But how do you know if you're still heading in the right direction an hour later or a day later? Well, you have to check your instruments, right? And in our world, that means measuring performance.
And when you're measuring, you're really looking at two key things. First, there's the structure. That's your ship. Do you have the right equipment, the right resources, the right people on board? But, a state-of-the-art ship is pretty useless without a crew that knows what they're doing. So that's the second thing you measure, your processes. How well is your crew, your team, actually working together to sail this thing?
And why bother measuring both the ship and the crew? Well, because together, they create your outcomes, your results. The outcome measures are what tell you if you actually made it to your destination. They're the ultimate proof. Did all that stuff, your great ship and your great crew, actually get you where you want it to go?
Now, to get the full story, you need two different kinds of instruments. You've got your quantitative data, that's your compass. It gives you the hard numbers, the raw facts. Sales are down 5%. But then you have your qualitative data. That's like the report from the lookout in the crow's nest. It gives you the human context, the why behind the numbers. So the compass tells you you're off course, but the lookout's report tells you it's because half the crew is seasick.
Okay, so this brings us to the final crucial step in the loop. Your instruments are all blaring, you're off course, what now? You don't just ignore it and sail straight into a hurricane, right? Of course not. You take corrective action.
Sometimes the issue is with the ship itself. Maybe there's a leak, so your corrective action might be a structural improvement. This could be anything from redesigning someone's job to make it work better, to totally restructuring a department, or just standardizing a messy process to get rid of the chaos.
But other times, the ship is perfectly fine. The problem is how the crew is operating it. In that case, you need process improvements. This is all about optimizing workflows, making sure the team is coordinating smoothly, or maybe even fixing your performance review system so it's actually helpful instead of, dreaded.
And then there's the third piece, and it's a big one, the human element. You can't forget about morale. Maybe the ship was solid, the processes are slick, but the crew is just burnt out. The corrective action here is all about boosting that morale. It could mean investing in the company culture, finding better ways to motivate people, or offering some real, valuable training.
So this leads us to what is maybe the most important point of all of this. Management control is not a one-and-done fix. It's a continuous journey. This whole cycle, it's not just about hitting your numbers this quarter. It's about building an organization that's resilient, one that can handle any storm that comes its way, whether it's a big market shift or just some internal drama.
Yeah, reaching your destination is great, don't get me wrong. But real, long-term success, that comes from making this a permanent habit. It's about constantly steering, checking your dials, and making those little corrections so that you get stronger and smarter with every single trip.
And in the end, it all comes back to this incredibly simple, powerful loop. Set your course with clear standards. Check your instruments by measuring performance. And make smart adjustments by taking action. That's it. That is your key to navigating literally any challenge and reaching any goal you set.
So, as you head back to your own ship after this, I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. When you look at your own team's dashboard, all your goals and metrics, what's the very first instrument you need to check right now to make sure you're still pointed in the right direction?